Commander Zix'thor of the Galactic Dominion slouched in his command chair, his three primary tentacles drumming an irritated pattern on the armrest. The holoscreen before him displayed yet another backwater planet in this utterly mundane sector of space. He'd been forced to catalog 17 worlds already this cycle, and quite frankly, he was getting sick of documenting the various ways primitive species managed to not kill themselves. Lieutenant Zix'thor, he chittered, his mandibles clicking in what his subordinates had learned to recognize as his "I'm about to say something" witty gesture. Please tell me this one at least has achieved nuclear fusion. I'm desperate for some entertainment. The lieutenant, a crystalline being who communicated through precisely modulated light patterns, flickered an amused purple. Actually, sir, they have, though they primarily use it for checking notes making electricity. Zix'thor's secondary eye stalks performed a perfect rotation of disbelief. How delightfully quaint. What do they call themselves? Humans, sir, or collectively humanity. They appear to be carbon-based bipeds with an unusual obsession with something called social media and cat videos. Zix'thor's holoscreen switched to a live feed of a human settlement in New York City, according to the database. His tertiary brain processed the imagery, while his primary one focused on his morning snack of ionized plasma particles. These humans had built impressively tall structures, he had to admit, though they seemed to have done it the hard way, stacking materials on top of each other like children's building blocks, instead of using proper molecular manipulation. Show me their military capabilities, he commanded, more out of procedure than interest. The screen shifted to display various human weapon systems. Lieutenant Zix'thor's crystalline structure vibrated with what might have been suppressed laughter. Sir, they still use chemical propellants for their projectile weapons, and their strongest soldiers can only lift approximately 3 times their body weight. 3 times. Zix'thor's laugh came out as a series of high-pitched clicks. My youngest spawn can manipulate gravity to lift 50 times that before their first molting. Please tell me you're joking. No, sir. And here's the truly amusing part: they seem quite proud of these achievements. They have entire competitions dedicated to lifting heavy objects and putting them back down again. The commander's color-shifting skin rippled with mirth. Oh, this is precious. Are you recording this? The council will need a good laugh during the next assembly. He leaned forward, his tentacles curling with amusement as he watched humans engaging in something called an Olympic weightlifting competition. Add this planet to the harmless but entertaining category, Zix'thor declared. We'll make first contact once they figure out basic gravitational manipulation. Might take them a few centuries, but he paused as something caught his attention. Lieutenant, what are they doing in that feed from their information network? The screen showed humans participating in something called an ultramarathon across a terrain labeled Death Valley. According to their data, sir, they're running 135 miles in temperatures exceeding 130 of their Fahrenheit units. For fun. For the first time in his distinguished career, Commander Zix'thor felt a slight twinge of unease. They do this voluntarily. Yes, sir. And this isn't even their most extreme endurance event. There's something called competitive eating that you might find. Belay that, Lieutenant Zix'thor interrupted, his primary tentacles unconsciously drawing closer to his body in a defensive posture. Perhaps we should accelerate our first contact timeline. Any species that voluntarily subjects itself to such conditions for fun bears closer observation. Set course for their primary governmental structure. Sir Zix'thor flickered questioningly. I thought you said they were harmless. Zix'thor's skin shifted to a thoughtful shade of mauve. Lieutenant, in my 300 cycles of exploration, I've learned one crucial lesson. Any species crazy enough to run through a place called Death Valley for entertainment is either completely insane or hiding capabilities we can't begin to comprehend. And I'm not sure which possibility disturbs me more. As their ship altered course toward Earth, Zix'thor couldn't shake the feeling that his report to the Council might not be quite as amusing as he'd initially planned. Admiral Elena Ironwolf Blackwood was having a spectacularly awful morning even before the aliens showed up. Her coffee maker had committed ritual suicide, her cat had decided her dress uniform made the perfect scratching post, and now some joker from SETI was claiming they had first contact. With all due respect, Dr. Chen, she said, pinching the bridge of her nose, if this is another false alarm triggered by a malfunctioning microwave oven. The entire wall of her Pentagon office dissolved into a swirling vortex of iridescent light. A creature that looked like the unholy offspring of an octopus and a disco ball stepped through, trailing what appeared to be sparkly tentacles. "Oh," Elena said, carefully setting down her coffee-less mug. "Not a microwave, then." "Greetings, primitive bipedal entity," the alien's voice sounded like auto-tune having an existential crisis. "I am Commander Zix'thor of the Galactic Dominion, here to establish diplomatic relations with your quaintly underdeveloped species." Elena had spent 20 years in the military, faced down 3 international crises, and once won a staring contest with a hangry grizzly bear. None of that had prepared her for an alien who spoke like a corporate motivational speaker with a god complex. "Admiral Elena Blackwood," she replied, wondering if it was too early to start drinking. "United States Navy, welcome to Earth. Please tell me you didn't just disintegrate my wall." "Oh," that Zix'thor waved a tentacle dismissively. "Merely a simple manipulation of quantum states. Your wall now exists in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. Don't worry, most of them are quite safe." "Most of them." "Well, one might be inhabited by interdimensional space sharks, but the probability is quite low. Now then, shall we proceed with the standard diplomatic protocol of comparing technological achievements so I can document your charming inadequacies?" A crystalline being that looked like a chandelier having an identity crisis flickered into existence beside Zix'thor. "Sir," it pulsed in what Elena somehow understood as a whisper. "Perhaps we shouldn't antagonize the species that invented something called ghost pepper-eating contests." "Nonsense. PZR." Observe Zix'thor's tentacles performed what might have been a jazz hands gesture. A holographic display materialized, showing various alien technological marvels. "Behold our mastery of gravity manipulation." Elena watched as the alien commander levitated her desk, her chair with her still in it, and what appeared to be her neighbor's prize-winning petunias from 3 floors down. "Impressive," she deadpanned. "We usually just use forklifts." "Fork." Lifts Zix'thor's eye stalks twisted in confusion. "You mean you physically lift objects? With machines? How charmingly primitive. Next you'll tell me you still need to sleep every day." "Actually," Sir PZR interjected, "my scans indicate they require approximately 8 hours of unconsciousness per day cycle." 8 hours. Zix'thor's skin cycled through several shades of neon disbelief. "How do you get anything done? This is even better than the running through death thing." Elena's eyebrow twitched. "Running through, are you telling me you've been spying on us? Merely standard pre-contact observation. Though I must say your species' entertainment choices are fascinating. Lieutenant PZR, show them our recording of the human ritual called competitive hot dog eating." "That won't be necessary," Elena interrupted, fighting the urge to face palm. "Perhaps we could focus on establishing diplomatic relations, without dimensional walls or floating furniture." Of course. But first, let me demonstrate our superior physical capabilities." Zix'thor's tentacles began glowing with an ominous purple light. "Watch as I lift this entire building using only my tertiary brain." Sir PZR flickered urgently. "The humans appear to be using something called load-bearing walls." The resulting chaos involved 3 dimensions of falling furniture, one very angry interdimensional space shark, and Elena's coffee maker mysteriously resurrecting itself just to spray scalding coffee in a perfect arc onto Zix'thor's color-shifting hide. As alarms blared and emergency response teams rushed to contain what would later be described in official reports as a multidimensional interior decorating incident, Elena found herself wondering if it was too late to transfer to the Coast Guard. "Well," Zix'thor said, dripping coffee and sporting what looked suspiciously like a space shark bite on one tentacle, "this has been enlightening. Though I must say your beverage weapons are surprisingly effective." "That wasn't a weapon," Elena sighed. "That was just Monday morning." PZR's crystalline structure pulsed with what might have been concern. "Sir, if this is how they start their week." Indeed, Lieutenant Zix'thor's eye stalks narrowed thoughtfully. "Perhaps we should reconsider our approach to demonstrating superiority. These humans seem to have mastered the art of casual chaos in ways we never anticipated. After the Monday morning incident, as it came to be known in classified circles. Commander Zix'thor spent 3 Earth days obsessing over human physical capabilities. His color-shifting skin had settled into an alarming shade of hot pink that Lieutenant PZR privately dubbed existential crisis coral. It simply doesn't make sense, Zix'thor declared, his tentacles gesturing at the holographic displays surrounding his command center. They have no biological advantages. Their strength-to-mass ratio is laughable, and yet he gestured to a video of humans participating in something called CrossFit. They keep doing this. Perhaps, Sir Pizar suggested, flickering diplomatically, we should issue a formal challenge? The Galactic Dominion's traditional trials of strength would surely demonstrate our superiority once and for all. Zix'thor's eye stalks perked up. Yes, Lieutenant, you're brilliant. Send a formal challenge to their Admiral Blackwood immediately. Elena stared at the holographic message floating above her newly requisitioned desk. The old one had been lost to what the incident report called interdimensional furniture migration. Let me get this straight, she said to the assembled Joint Chiefs. They want to hold an intergalactic strength competition. They've given us 1 Earth week to select our champion. General Thompson confirmed, looking like he was fighting back a grin. Apparently they're quite convinced they'll win. Elena's smile would have made a shark proud. Get me Marcus Rodriguez. Marcus Mountain Rodriguez was enjoying his retirement the only way he knew how, by bench pressing a small car while his neighbor's kids counted reps. The former Marine had earned his nickname not just from his impressive 6 frame, but from his habit of carrying wounded comrades and their equipment out of hot zones. Multiple times, uphill, in sandstorms. Uncle Mountain, one of the kids shouted, pointing at the sky. There's a sparkly squid watching you. Marcus carefully set down the Volkswagen and turned to find Commander Zix'thor hovering 3 feet off the ground, all 3 of his primary tentacles crossed in what might have been an attempt at looking intimidating. So Zix'thor said, his voice dripping with artificial casualness, this is what humans consider impressive. Lifting primitive transportation devices. Marcus wiped his hands on a towel and grinned. Nah, this is just my warm-up. Tuesday is usually engine block day, but I'm trying to take it easy since I retired. Retired? Zix'thor's eye stalks twitched. You mean you were stronger? Oh yeah, back in my Marine days I once carried 3 wounded buddies, their gear, and a portable anti-aircraft system through 6 miles of desert. Made great time too, had to get back for Taco Tuesday at the mess hall. Pizar, materializing beside his commander, flickered rapidly. Sir, my scanners indicate he's not lying. Impossible. Zix'thor's skin shifted to a shade that could only be described as panic. Puce, the energy expenditure alone would. Oh. That reminds me, Marcus interrupted, checking his watch. It's almost time for my afternoon run. You guys want to join? Just a quick 50 miles through the mountains. Great way to clear the head. 50 miles. Zix'thor's tertiary brain appeared to be having a meltdown. For fun. Well, that and the cookies. Mrs. Thompson at the halfway point makes these amazing protein-packed snickerdoodles. Speaking of which, Marcus turned to the kids. Joey, Emily, tell your mom I might be a bit late for dinner. Looks like we're having an alien strength competition. The children cheered as Admiral Blackwood's car pulled up to the curb. She stepped out, took one look at the scene, Marcus casually leaning against the car he'd been bench pressing, Zix'thor hovering in what appeared to be stunned disbelief, and Pizar flickering through colors previously unknown to human eyes, and smiled. I see you've met our champion, Commander, she said sweetly. This is highly irregular, Zix'thor protested, his tentacles twisting nervously. Surely you can't expect us to believe that this retired Marine, Marcus supplied helpfully, can compete with our advanced evolutionary capabilities. Marcus shrugged his massive shoulders. Only one way to find out. But first, anyone want a protein shake? I make them with ghost peppers and espresso shots. Really gets you going. Pizar's crystalline structure vibrated with what might have been terror. Sir, perhaps we should reconsider. Too late, Zix'thor declared, though his hovering had developed a distinct wobble. The challenge has been issued. We shall see who truly possesses superior strength. Cool, Marcus said, grinning. Just let me finish my warm-up. Hey kids, want to help Uncle Mountain flip this truck a few times? The Galactic Dominion ship had transformed its cargo bay into what looked like a cross between an Olympic stadium and a discotheque convention. Holographic displays flickered everywhere, and the air hummed with exotic energy fields. Marcus Mountain Rodriguez stood at one end, doing casual one-handed push-ups while waiting for the proceedings to begin. The 3 trials of strength Zix'thor announced to the assembled crowd of aliens and human officials will test the very limits of physical capability. First challenge: gravitational resistance. P-Czar's crystalline form sparkled as he explained, competitors must resist increasingly powerful gravitational forces while maintaining an upright position. The alien champion, a towering being named Krax-Ul, who appeared to be made entirely of shifting metallic muscles, stepped onto the testing platform. Zix'thor activated the gravity controls, slowly increasing the force. Observe Krax-Ul boomed as the gravity reached 5 times Earth normal. I barely feel it. Marcus stopped his push-ups and scratched his head. Quick question, is this supposed to be the hard part? Hard part, Krax-Ul scoffed, now at 10 times Earth gravity. I'm merely warming up. Oh, Marcus said, standing up and stretching. It's just that back in Marine training, we used to do burpees in the centrifuge chamber for fun. Called it Throw Up Thursday. Admiral Blackwood, watching from the sidelines, struggled to maintain her poker face. Marine, she explained to a horrified-looking alien dignitary. They're like this all the time. When Marcus's turn came, he didn't just stand under the increasing gravity, he started doing jumping jacks. At 15 times Earth normal. This is quite refreshing, he commented, barely breaking a sweat. Really helps with the back tension, you know. P-Czar's readings were going haywire. Sir, his bone density. It's like nothing we've ever seen. Must be all the milk, Marcus said cheerfully. Mom always said it does a body good. Speaking of which, anyone got any snacks? All this standing around is making me hungry. The second trial involved lifting impossible weights using the alien's advanced technology. Krax-Ul interfaced with a neural amplifier, his metallic form glowing as he mentally lifted a small spacecraft. Behold the power of evolved consciousness, he declared. Marcus looked at the neural interface helmet they offered him, shrugged, and set it aside. Mind if I do this the old-fashioned way? The old-fashioned Zix'thor's eye stalks nearly tied themselves in knots. But that's impossible. The mass displacement alone would. Marcus had already grabbed the spacecraft's landing strut and was hoisting it overhead. You know what's really impossible, he said, voice barely strained. The mess hall running out of bacon on Bacon Tuesday. Now that was a crisis. Sir P-Czar flickered urgently to Zix'thor. He's humming something called Eye of the Tiger while doing this. The final trial was meant to be the coup de grace, the endurance sphere, a containment field that subjected the participant to increasingly difficult physical challenges. Krax-Ul lasted an impressive 3 hours, emerging from the sphere looking slightly dented but proud. Beat that, primitive. Marcus entered the sphere, and things got weird. Hour 1, hey, this reminds me of that time we had to evacuate that embassy during a sandstorm. Anyone got some tunes? Really helps pass the time. Hour 4, is it supposed to be getting harder? Because I could use some more resistance here. Been meaning to work on my cardio. Hour 8, mind if I do some crunches? Getting a bit bored just standing here. Hour 12, you know what would make this more interesting? Ghost peppers. Always helps spice things up during training. Zix'thor's skin had cycled through so many colors of disbelief that P-Czar had to invent new terms to describe them. How is he still going? Krax-Ul demanded, his metallic form vibrating with indignation. The energy expenditure alone should have. Oh, that reminds me, Marcus called from inside the sphere, now doing one-handed push-ups while reciting the Marine Corps hymn. Anyone want to join me for a quick marathon after this? Great way to cool down. Admiral Blackwood had given up trying to hide her grin. You should see what he does for his actual workout. The breaking point came when Marcus started giving performance tips to the increasingly flustered alien observers. See, your form's all wrong, he explained to Krax-Ul while simultaneously bench-pressing what appeared to be the equivalent of a small tank inside the sphere. You're relying too much on your fancy tech. Sometimes you just gotta embrace the burn, you know, like this one time in Death Valley. Enough Zix'thor's tentacles were tied in literal knots. How? What? Why aren't you even tired? Marcus paused his exercise routine, looking genuinely confused. Tired. But we haven't even started the intense part yet. I was saving my energy for. Saving your P-Czar's crystalline form briefly short-circuited. The sphere's containment field is failing, someone shouted. "Oh, my bad," Marcus said, looking slightly embarrassed. "I might have accidentally exceeded its design specifications. Want me to take it down a notch?" Every alien in the room stared at him. "You mean you've been holding back?" Kraxol asked, his metallic voice cracking. Marcus shrugged, causing the sphere's energy readings to spike dangerously. "Well, yeah, didn't want to show off or anything. That wouldn't be polite." Zix'thor looked like he was having an existential crisis. But our technology, our evolutionary advantages. "Those are cool and all," Marcus said, finally stepping out of the sphere which promptly collapsed in on itself. "But have you guys ever tried just, doing things the hard way? It's way more fun." Lieutenant Pizar was having what humans might call a nervous breakdown. His crystalline structure kept shifting between frequencies that hadn't been observed since the creation of the universe, and his latest report to Commander Zix'thor wasn't helping matters. "Sir," he flickered anxiously, "you need to see these readings from the human trials." "There." "Well." Zix'thor's eye stalks swiveled to the holographic data. "That can't be right. Run it again." "I've run it 17 times, sir. In fact, I've had our entire science division analyze it." The human. He wasn't using any technology at all. No genetic modifications, no neural enhancements, not even basic gravitational manipulation. He was just what Zix'thor demanded, his tentacles curling with dread. "Just being human, sir." The command center erupted into chaos as more data poured in. Screens displayed historical footage of human achievements: free climbers scaling sheer cliffs without equipment, marathon runners pushing through impossible conditions, swimmers crossing freezing oceans. But how Kraxol demanded, his metallic form pacing nervously. "Their muscle fiber density is nothing special. Their neural pathways are practically primitive. Their bones are just calcium." "That's not even the worst part," Pizar continued, his crystalline structure vibrating with tension. "According to our latest analysis, they get stronger when faced with resistance." "What do you mean?" Zix'thor asked, though his color-shifting skin suggested he really didn't want to know. "Their bodies adapt to everything. If you put them in high gravity, they get denser. If you make them lift heavy things, they build more muscle. If you try to exhaust them." Pizar's lights dimmed dramatically. "They develop more endurance." "Sir, they're literally designed to become stronger through adversity." As if to prove the point, Marcus could be seen through the observation window, casually doing handstand push-ups while explaining Marine Corps history to a group of terrified alien scientists. "And you know what the really scary part is?" Pizar continued, his voice dropping to a whisper flicker. "This isn't even their final form." Zix'thor's primary tentacles went limp. "Explain." "According to our research, humans have something they call hysterical strength under extreme circumstances. They can temporarily access physical capabilities far beyond their normal limits. There are documented cases of them lifting vehicles off trapped individuals, fighting off predators with broken limbs, and running ultramarathons with broken bones," Admiral Blackwood added, making everyone jump as she entered the command center. "Sorry, couldn't help overhearing. You should see what happens when we get properly motivated, or when someone bets us we can't do something." The aliens stared at her in horror. "Oh, and the best part," she continued with a predatory smile. "Marcus there? He's what we consider above average, but not exceptionally so. We have millions more like him, some even stronger." Pizar's crystalline structure made a sound like wind chimes having a panic attack. "Sir, I've just completed analysis of their entertainment media. They have something called professional wrestling, where they deliberately throw themselves at each other for fun. And something called parkour, which appears to be jumping off buildings for actually, I'm not sure why they do that. Because it's their Blackwood supplied helpfully." Zix'thor's skin had settled into a shade that could only be described as existential dread purple. "You mean to tell me that your species deliberately seeks out ways to make things harder for yourselves, just to prove you can overcome them?" "Pretty much," Blackwood confirmed. "We have a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, though personally, I prefer hold my beer and watch this." Through the window, Marcus could now be seen teaching some young alien cadets how to do proper burpees. Remember, his voice carried through the observation glass. "The pain is just weakness leaving the body. Now, who's ready to try it with increased gravity?" The sound of multiple alien translation devices shorting out filled the suddenly very quiet command center. "In the history of the Galactic Dominion, No species had ever requested a do-over of the trials of strength. Yet here was Commander Zix'thor, watching his finest engineers construct what they called the ultimate endurance chamber, all because Marcus had called the previous tests a nice warm-up. Sir P-Zar flickered nervously. "Are you sure about this? The power requirements alone could run a small star system." "We have to know." Lieutenant Zix'thor's tentacles twisted with determination. "We have to understand what we're dealing with here. No species can be this." Stubborn Admiral Blackwood suggested, appearing beside them. "Persistent, criminally incapable of knowing when to quit." I was going to say resilient, but those work too. The ultimate endurance chamber looked like something out of a fever dream. It combined every physical challenge the aliens could imagine: shifting gravity fields, extreme temperature variations, atmospheric pressure changes, and even temporal distortion. Marcus walked in wearing standard PT gear and carrying a water bottle. "Mind if I bring this in? Staying hydrated is important." "The chamber will subject you to forces that could tear apart a small moon," Zix'thor explained, his voice grave. "Your water bottle is the least of our concerns." "Cool. But is there a bathroom break policy? Because I had a big breakfast." Several alien scientists fainted. The test began with gravitational forces that would have crushed most spacecraft. Marcus did jumping jacks. They cranked up the heat to surface of Venus levels. He complained it was a bit chilly and asked if anyone had a light jacket. They dropped the temperature to near absolute zero. He started doing burpees to warm up. "Impossible cracks, ool," shouted from the observation deck. His molecular structure should have collapsed hours ago. 5 hours in, they introduced the temporal distortion field. Marcus used the time dilation to get in a few extra sets of push-ups. 7 hours, the atmospheric pressure could have crushed a submarine. Marcus asked if anyone wanted to join him for some yoga to keep things interesting. 10 hours, they threw in simulated combat scenarios. Marcus critiqued the alien battle formations and offered helpful tips for improving their hand-to-hand combat techniques. Sir P-Zar reported, his crystalline structure vibrating with disbelief. His endorphin levels are actually rising. He appears to be enjoying this. Zix'thor watched as Marcus started teaching an imaginary class about proper squat form in the middle of what should have been a reality-bending nightmare. "Lieutenant, what have we created?" "Created, sir? I don't think we created anything. I think they've been like this all along. We just never noticed because we were too busy laughing at their primitive technology." The breaking point came 13 hours in, when Marcus started humming something called Eye of the Tiger while shadowboxing in 500 times normal gravity. "Okay, that's it," Zix'thor announced, slapping the emergency shutdown button with a tentacle. "Enough." The chamber powered down. Marcus stepped out, looking barely winded. "We're done already," he checked his watch. "But I was just getting warmed up for my afternoon routine." Warmed up, Zix'thor's eye stalks were practically tied in knots. "We threw everything at you. Forces that could destroy planets, environmental conditions that shouldn't support life. How? Why? What are you humans?" Marcus took a thoughtful sip from his water bottle. "Well, you see, where I grew up in Texas, we had this saying, it ain't bragging if you can back it up. Thing is, we humans, we don't really care about what should or shouldn't be possible. We just see something hard and think, wonder if I can do that." Admiral Blackwood nodded. "You aliens keep asking what makes us so special. But here's the thing, we're not. We're just really, really bad at accepting limitations." "But the physics," P-Zar protested weakly. "Oh, that reminds me," Marcus said brightly. "You guys want to hear about this thing we do called physical therapy? It's where we deliberately injure ourselves, then keep exercising anyway until we get stronger. It's great fun." Zix'thor's color-shifting skin settled into a shade that could only be described as enlightened terror. "You know," he said slowly, "I think I finally understand why your species survived all those millennia without advanced technology." Oh, Blackwood raised an eyebrow. "The universe probably took one look at your ridiculous determination and decided it was easier to let you win." Marcus grinned. "Speaking of winning, anyone up for a friendly competition? I heard some of your younger officers talking about their training routines, and I had some ideas for improvements." The sound of multiple aliens trying to find emergency excuses to leave filled the suddenly very quiet chamber. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as Commander Zix'thor presented his final report on Earth. His normally flamboyant tentacles were uncharacteristically still, and his color-shifting skin had settled into what his crew now called human-induced philosophical crisis blue. "Distinguished council members," he began, "I stand before you to correct a grave error in our initial assessment of humanity." The holographic displays activated, showing footage of Marcus's performances in the trials. Several council members' appendages went limp at the sight of him doing one-armed push-ups in what should have been lethal gravity. "We thought their lack of advanced technology made them weak," Zix'thor continued. "We were wrong. Their primitive methods didn't hold them back, they made them stronger. While we evolved to use technology to overcome obstacles, they evolved to overcome obstacles by sheer force of will." "Surely you're exaggerating," one council member protested. "No species could." "They have competitions," Czar interrupted, his crystalline form flickering with residual trauma, "where they chase wheels of cheese down near vertical hills. For fun. The prize is the cheese." Dead silence filled the chamber. Furthermore, Zix'thor added, "I have come to believe that our standard metrics for measuring species advancement may need revision. Any civilization that invented something called CrossFit clearly operates on a different level of reality than we previously understood." Admiral Blackwood, standing at the chamber's entrance with Marcus, stepped forward. "If I may, honored council, we humans have a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog." "They have dogs too," Czar whispered to the horrified council. "They bred wolves into hundreds of different shapes just because they could." "What the Admiral means," Marcus added helpfully, "is that we're always up for a challenge. Speaking of which, anyone interested in learning some basic Marine Corps training routines? I've modified them to account for your various physiologies." The sound of multiple council members suddenly remembering urgent appointments elsewhere echoed through the chamber. "The point is," Zix'thor concluded, his skin shifting to a more diplomatic hue, "I recommend we establish full diplomatic relations with Earth immediately, not because they have the most advanced technology or the strongest natural abilities, but because they have something far more dangerous: the absolute refusal to accept impossible as an answer." Also, Czar added, "They invited us to something called an Iron Man competition next month. I've run the numbers, and I believe it would be safer for galactic stability if we just accepted them as equals." As the council voted unanimously to welcome Earth into the galactic community, Marcus turned to Admiral Blackwood with a grin. "So," he said, "should we tell them about the X Games?" Blackwood's smile could have powered a small star system. "Let's save something for the second date." In the end, humanity didn't need advanced technology or evolutionary advantages to earn their place among the stars. All they needed was what they'd always had: the stubborn, possibly insane, absolutely human determination to look at the impossible and say, "Hold my protein shake and watch this."